Porkins Policy Radio, offering a unique perspective on everything: geopolitics, culture creation, the reality of the world we live in. Coming to you live from New York City, your host, Pierce Redmond.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Porkins Policy Radio. As always, I am your host, Pierce Redmond, and you can find this show here at American Freedom Radio, AmericanFreedomRadio.com, as well as on my website, which is PorkinsPolicyReview.com. And if you haven't seen this already or heard about it, I am now finally on iTunes. So please do subscribe and download through iTunes if you have not already. And if you can, please also leave a review of the show there on iTunes. That helps in terms of searches and things like that. And I appreciate it a lot. I already know there's a few people that have put up some wonderful 5-star reviews. So thank you to everybody who has already done so. And again, too, if you want to support my work, you can always go to patreon.com/Pierce Redmond, and you can become a subscriber. And more importantly, if you want to support the wonderful, amazing work that AFR does for not only for me, but for all of the other hosts out there who are on AFR, then please go and become a subscriber to AFR's Patreon campaign. And I'll throw up some links and whatnot on my website and on this post so that you can go and become a subscriber to AFR through Patreon. Because, of course, I would not be here doing this radio show without the support of American Freedom Radio and especially of Danny Romero, who is the man behind the microphone, who is he's there for all of us hosts. He produces all of the shows. He records everything. He puts up with quite a lot of my bullshit, all the time. And the past couple of weeks I was hounding Danny to check this. I've been doing a lot of pre-recorded shows, and I was sending all these shows to Danny, and I was like freaking out, and I wanted him to look it over, and I was very much acting a bit like a diva, a radio and typical internet radio diva. But Danny, always a smile on his face, always, never yells or freaks out on any of the hosts. He treats us very, very well. So please do go and support American Freedom Radio on Patreon if you can. It's like if you support me, especially, throw a dollar or two towards American Freedom Radio. Every little bit counts. And, if you can give me $1 a month, then please do try and support American Freedom Radio for at least $1, if not much, much more. But anyway, without further ado, today we are joined by fellow AFR radio host and good friend of the show, Ed Opperman. And Ed, how are you?
Very good. I didn't realize we were live. I thought we were saying.
Oh, no, we are live right now. Yeah. This is the live show, Ed.
And by the way, I want to take my hat off to Danny too. You're absolutely right. Dealing with all these stations and these owners and hosts and stuff like that, there's always drama behind the scenes, but AFR is really a bunch of cool people.
Yeah, no, I second that, definitely. And yeah, there is always drama and, chat rooms and all of the various stuff. And Ed, you do a ton too with, dealing with a lot of people. So, thank you, Danny, for everything that you do. Yeah. And we should thank Danny every radio show. We'll try and make that a new standard here. But anyway, Ed is joining me today because we wanted to explore a little bit more in terms of the stuff that I was talking about on your show last Friday. I did a short little, like a half-hour segment up in the attic where I worked. It was the only quiet place I could find. And we were talking about the recent nomination by Donald Trump of Alex Acosta to the role of the Secretary of Labor. And Alex Acosta, of course, is the former U.S. attorney down in Palm Beach, who, of course, oversaw the federal prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein, helped pave the way for Epstein to get this amazing sweetheart deal. And we also spoke a little bit in that conversation, also a little bit about the Virginia Gualfieri and Ghislane Maxwell defamation suit, and some of the sort of bizarre things going on with that suit in terms of this internet troll / pretend journalist Mike Cernovich, who has inserted himself into the Gualfieri Maxwell defamation suit. And on that, when I was talking to you, Ed, I talked about how, according to Gualfieri's own lawyers, Cernovich is actually acting as Alan Dershowitz's proxy, because Cernovich is asking for the motion for summary judgment that of Ghislane Maxwell that has been sealed, and he's asking for that. And this is again the exact same document that Alan Dershowitz was asking for when he was an intervener within the defamation suit. Cernovich claims, this is all make-believe, this is all phony, I have nothing to do with this. It's just ridiculous that they would even link this. And like a few days after he posted that on his website, I went back and checked Pacer and saw that Alan Dershowitz sent a letter expressing his desire to attach himself to Cernovich's efforts, and that this was all wonderful, and basically, agreeing with what Gualfieri's lawyers were saying, in that what Cernovich is asking for is exactly what Dershowitz is asking for, and he supports Cernovich's motion to try and get the summary judgment unsealed. So I sent you some of those documents, including Virginia Gualfieri's lawyer's response, also Dershowitz's letter. I also sent you that sort of bizarrely worded article, if you can call it that Cernovich posted on his own website, where he seems to be referring to either Virginia Gualfieri as a madam that worked for Epstein, or he's trying to pass off Gualfieri's objection as Maxwell's. So, Ed, what do you make of all of this, and what do you think is going on here?
Good question. As you were talking, one thing that I found interesting is that Dershowitz can find no other journalist besides this Cernovich guy to file this motion. How could that be? Because think, he's hooked up with Dan Abrams and stuff like that. There's so many people that he knows, people from Court TV. Why this Cernovich character, who is so discredited? Because if you read his writings, this guy's in favor of rape. This guy's an advocate of rape. Incredibly bizarre. Now I wonder what's in that. I'm not catching what you're saying where he refers to Virginia Roberts. Is easier pronouncing Gualfieri, whatever how you pronounce it. But why? I'm not catching when you're saying that he refers to her as Epstein's madam.
Well, so on this article, and I linked up to it on the post on my website for our conversation, Ed, but I'll link up to it again in this episode. But you can search it right now if you want to on Cernovich's website, which is dangerandplay.com, and it's called Pedophile Lawsuit Update: Response to Cernovich Media. And in it, he says, in response to Cernovich Media suing to obtain records in pedophile lawsuit, he says, today we received a reply. I was falsely accused acting as a proxy for Alan Dershowitz. Then there's a paragraph quote from what the motion, to object to this that was filed by Virginia Roberts or Virginia Gualfieri's lawyers, saying, quote, on the heels of this court denying Alan Dershowitz's request to publish selections of defendants' filed documents in his motion to intervene, Dershowitz's close associate has filed another motion to intervene seeking substantially the same relief. And then it goes on to, a little bit more. Then Cernovich says, their motion includes a picture of me, which is this horrifying picture when he was all, juicing up on steroids, and saying that I work for Dershowitz, blah, blah, blah. And then underneath that, he says, quote, the accused madam is shook.
Yeah, I see that now.
The accused madam is scared. But who the hell is he referring to? Because, now, correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but this motion, this opposition to motion to intervene and unseal, that's Virginia Gualfieri's lawyers. not Maxwell. So why? Who is he referring to when he says the accused madam is shook? Because the way I read that is he's either saying that Virginia Guaffiri, the victim, is a madam, or he's trying to pass this off, I guess assuming that his idiot, readers aren't going to click on that link. He's trying to pass this off as Maxwell, saying that that it's Maxwell objecting to this.
That's a good question. Did you try emailing him to find out what's going on?
I have not, only because I just did not want to, even kind of associate myself with this guy. I think I might try and ask him. I think I'll probably email him because, he seems like the person, if you were to ask him on Twitter or something, he would just sort of fly off the handle. Right. But I guess I should, I almost just, I really didn't think much of him at all. Even when I saw this, the accused madam is shook, I just assumed this is just, he's just trying to fool his own readers, who, of course, if you go down to the comments, none of them are picking up on it. They're not even really talking about, this case. And I didn't think much of it until I saw that Alan Dershowitz wrote a letter, in agreement with this guy, wanting to kind of, support him and his motion to unseal Ghislane Maxwell's motion for summary judgment. So I think I will have to ask him something. But, I mean, like you said, Ed, it's really surprising that Dershowitz is using this guy. This is like the best he can do. Now, granted, Dershowitz knows him. He was interviewed for Cernovich's movie Silenced. And this was back in like 2015, 2016. So well after all of the, allegations had come out. This is like in the middle or at the tail end of defamation suits against Alan Dershowitz. So really surprising that Cernovich, who's claiming to be, he's out there for the victims and he wants to expose these elite pedophiles. Very bizarre that he had no problem sitting down with Alan Dershowitz and interviewing him for a movie. But do you think, Ed, that this is just really Dershowitz has no friends in the media anymore?
I don't think so at all, because I think you see him on TV all the time still. They're all dying to get Dershowitz. And they treat him with kid gloves, too. Even when he said, this is the last time I'm going to talk about this, they just let it go.
Yeah.
So, that's an interesting question. Why can't Dershowitz find someone better than this guy, especially considering this guy's reputation with all that kind of comments, He's a reckless kind of guy. And what is Dershowitz so obsessed with what is in this motion, the sealed motion, to risk attaching his name over and over to this case?
Yeah. That seems to be the $1 million question here is what did Maxwell state in this that, she doesn't want this unsealed. I don't think. Virginia Guaffiri's lawyers don't want this unsealed, at least now, I don't know. I think that a lot of this to me goes back to early on when this, defamation suit was sort of going forward. Ghislane Maxwell was pleading with Jeffrey Epstein to testify or to give a deposition, because she claimed that this would clear her name entirely, that Epstein would be able to clear her, and I think that was a coded message, like, Jeffrey, you've got immunity from this, from all the way back in Palm Beach. You can say whatever, you can lie, in a deposition and get me off. But even Epstein isn't going out on a limb for, Maxwell. And again, if you go through, like on Pacer and you go through, for the different motions, there are lots of motions like Epstein, and they're all redacted, but there are motions from Epstein saying why he won't testify to clear Maxwell's name. So I don't know. There must be thing in there that, I assume Maxwell probably dropped some bombshells, and I don't know. I mean, who knows what's in them? But obviously, there's something in them that Dershowitz believes will clear his name, I suppose. Because as far as I know, his motions as an intervener, this was after the defamation suit against him was settled. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something he wants to really stick it to Virginia Guaffiri. I don't know.
Wait, I'm not clear that the defamation suit's been settled against Dershowitz. The lawsuits between the attorneys have been settled.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the one with Brad Edwards.
Yeah, right. The Brad Edwards against Dershowitz and Dershowitz against Edwards, that was settled in a very oddly worded statement.
Yeah.
That Dershowitz was trying to make it sound like everything was cleared, and then Edwards came right out and said, "No, we don't. It's not cleared at all." So it was, but they could both claim, just quoting their own part. That was released too on a Friday night at like 8:00 at night. Very and it's just, there's just so much with this freaking case that makes no sense on so many levels.
Well, and I guess there, like I said, there must be something in there. Again, too, keep in mind, this isn't like a 12-page criminal complaint or something. This is like a 700-page document, with, or 700 exhibits within this document, hundreds and hundreds of pages, most likely, tons of exhibits, all sorts of things. There's, it'd probably be a gold mine to go through all of the stuff that's in Maxwell's summary judgment. So somewhere buried in there, I suppose, is something that Dershowitz believes he can use as ammunition or something to – I mean, maybe he really is concerned that this is going to tarnish his entire, career or his whole legacy. I mean, he's certainly connected to this in more ways than I think he wants to be. I don't think I think it will be impossible to – when the history books are written on Alan Dershowitz, it's going to be impossible to kind of, leave this part out. Especially considering, how close he was to Epstein, and the lengths to which he went to protect Epstein, which might be even more illegal given that if Dershowitz was having sex with either Virginia Guaffiri or others, he basically crafted an immunity deal for Epstein and all co-conspirators. Well, if he's a co-conspirator in all of this, is that even legal for a lawyer to do? I don't know.
To do it, lawyer could do that, sure. Yeah, he can get himself immunity, sure. Very interesting. I didn't even consider that part. That's a whole other interesting element to all of this.
Well, here's a question for you, Ed, too.
Okay.
Because we've had a lot of, there seems to also be a pattern with a lot of these. That every time there is, some sort of like scandal, revolving around Epstein that seems to touch on Donald Trump, something, kind of pops up. Like you can look at the rape lawsuit against Donald Trump that involved Jeffrey Epstein, and then, just as that sort of ending, suddenly the Pizzagate scandal erupts, and I think it's a little, kind of orchestrated to that degree. There's the same thing that when I think also along the same timeline as the rape lawsuit, suddenly these weird pictures or supposedly new pictures started emerging from Epstein's Island, where everyone was focusing on the temple that's down there, which is very odd and obviously deserves scrutiny. But it wasn't as if these pictures weren't out there. People could have found them, but suddenly it was this huge, like overnight, everyone I knew started tweeting about it. To me, and like, oh my God, you've never seen this before. This is crazy. And again too, Cernovich files his lawsuit on Inauguration Day, to get these sort of documents out. Just today, I don't think these are necessarily related, but just today you've got that, nut job Milo, resigning from Breitbart after making some very, these sort of pedophilic comments that he made on an internet show a while back. And all of this is that Alex Acosta gets nominated. I guess my question to you is like, while all these things are going on, seemingly in the research community, the alternative media, there's like silence about this. What do you make of that?
I think because the research community, quote unquote, are all Trump fans, and are just so blinded and willing to overlook any complicity with this guy. Let me tell you something about the Jane Doe suit against Trump and Epstein that was dropped just a couple of days before the election. That girl was going to have a press conference with Lisa Bloom, okay? And Lisa Bloom's website was denial of service. She was under attack by a DDoS attack. And so was Livestream. That Livestream was shut down, and they couldn't live stream the press conference. Now, when that happened, and I saw this happen, man, okay, I knew that this was a professional attack on these websites, right? And now we see in this Christopher Steele dossiers, this UK MI6 guy against Trump, he talks about how Trump has this Webzilla company, friends of his, he has them on retainer, and they're able to redirect porn traffic to different sites to shut them down. Mm-hmm. When that happened, man, okay, when that press conference was shut down, okay, a couple of days later, Sean Hannity says on his radio show in the afternoon, boy, we dodged a bullet. We dodged a bullet this week. And the guy says, what was that? He goes, Epstein. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, and that's Sean Hannity talking about it. Everyone knows he dodged a bullet that day. So, there's that attack, and also to this stuff with there was another. Oh yeah. Trump's got these internet researchers in the bag, man. A lot of them. I know it is because he has those Breitbart crowd, and also too when that thing came out with Christopher Steele, the Pissgate thing in the UK. He had an article ready to go. It was all ready to go, man. And they search engine optimized that article that it was about how it was a Reddit troll. You familiar with that?
Yeah.
As soon as you type in Pissgate, that's the first thing that comes up. You type in golden showers, 100 porn sites don't come up. That thing comes up.
Yeah, right.
It sounds like the next day. So Trump's on top of this, man, as far as this internet stuff is going. And he's doing a great job with it, too, because it's just so freaking in your face, and he's getting away with it. I think he has a lot of dirt on people.
Well, I mean, that's what strikes me with this Epstein stuff is that there is, for all the people that are obsessed with all these other scandals, and there's like this whole DynCorp and that idiot George Webb and his videos. There's like everyday stuff going on with this case. It's really not that difficult to find out, you can basically do this for free or, it's not that expensive on Pacer. You're charged very, very little, in terms of, for looking at these documents. It's like you could spend like, $3 in a month easily. Yeah. I know what you mean. It's like in your face. It's like right under the surface. All this stuff is happening. Again, too, like with the Cernovich thing, I was really kind of convinced myself that he's just an idiot. Didn't know. But then you look at this weird article, the way he sort of, seems to be kind of dodging questions. He's not talking about that at all, about the Epstein case. He's not really talking or addressing, what's really going on with that. And I know it's like everywhere you look. I mean, again, like you asked me, when I was on your show, why in God's name is Epstein nominating the attorney, the U.S. attorney that got Epstein off? Why even risk bringing that up? It boggles the mind.
Okay, but the Trump supporters are so brainwashed that when I bring that up, they say, oh, this is Trump's plan. He has a secret plan.
Yeah.
Now he has a guy from the inside who knows all the names, and now he's going to get to work and around it. They're nuts. Hey, but real quick, before we get too far off the topic, who is this guy, George Webb? Where did he come from, and why is everybody contacting me about this guy every 5 minutes? Is everyone driving you crazy with this guy?
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it, right? Yeah, I know. It's like, if I get one more fucking email about this or tweet, or someone commenting that I need to check him out, I have no idea. I mean, I think he's actually just full of shit. I think he's just a liar. I think if you listen to his videos, aside from the fact that they are the most convoluted, info overload, conspiracy crack designed, he talks about wild stuff. He talks about knowing Valerie Plame. Constantly, he's also like obsessed with Valerie Plame to the point where, he talks about some, Hollywood producer that's interested in making a movie about his work, and she's really, really pretty. She looks just like Valerie Plame. He talks about knowing Oliver Stone, talking with Seymour Hersh, which should be a red flag for anybody out there. Not to mention, he babbles on about how he, had some sort of thumb drive that had videos from Epstein's plane, but he never looked at them, but he passed them along to some investigators, and he does these like throwaway comments, but yet he gets basic facts about the Epstein case totally wrong. I have no idea. I think he's just an idiot who wants attention, and there's a lot of people out there willing to give him attention.
Yeah, and then maybe, because I had a lot of weird stuff, people contact me who I never met before. They send me friend requests and sending me this guy's thing. And then, I block them, and then they email me, tell me they're all outraged that I blocked them because they're annoying me. It's way overkill.
Yeah.
To push this guy on my show for saying that's a red flag for me whenever I see that. And yeah. I haven't listened to a word he said. I gotta be honest with you, but.
Oh, I mean, you can't do it after 10 minutes, you just realize that he's just throwing out terms and people and places, and it's a lot of people that are just high in their room. They watch conspiracy videos all day, and he's great because it's like the biggest conspiracy ever. This is like DynCorp and organ thieves and the Clinton Foundation and Jeffrey Epstein and Podesta and this and that and the other thing, and every day it's like the conspiracy gets bigger and bigger with him, and there's more and more people and places. I was talking about this with a listener of mine who is also kind of doesn't believe him, and it's there's this whole thing with Epstein has a helicopter that had the same tail number as a helicopter owned by DynCorp. What do I make of that? I don't really care, It's not as if Epstein was flying this helicopter from the United States over to Bosnia, I mean, what was he doing with it? And I don't quite get why that should be a connect. I mean, I don't know. They gave it to him. Who knows? But it's sort of like you're getting off the topic, because then it's like, okay, let me start looking at DynCorp. Oh my God, DynCorp, they did this. And then, the Bosnian War. Oh, let me research about the Bosnian War. Oh, this was a Clinton thing. Let me look at the Clintons. And then next thing you know, suddenly it's, you can't leave your house because you're being monitored by the NSA or something. And the conspiracy becomes so over, saturated that it touches every single thing. You're not really getting down to the details of what's going on. And furthermore, too, it's I would love to see Epstein in prison. You're not going to get him in prison investigating, DynCorp. But, these things right now, like the Jane Doe 43 lawsuit, that's real.
Yeah.
And that seems like a very straightforward, simple way of getting him in prison. So I don't know. And George Webb just pops up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden everybody knows him. Everybody's referencing him. I mean, he reminds me kind of watching those 6-hour long David Icke videos where after a while it's just you're so overloaded that anything they say, you're just, and you just sort of you just start getting brainwashed by it.
Yeah, kind of like that flight attendant that wrote that 9/11 book.
You know, definitely,
yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's got popped out and it has some kind of an intelligence background.
Yeah.
And does anybody know what that is or what? Is there anything there?
Oh, with Webb?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't the foggiest idea. I think he's a complete bullshit artist. I don't buy a word he said. This guy, like, he throws away these things like, I was just meeting with Oliver Stone last night. You know, and then gets on to something else where he talks about, I was talking with Cy Hirsch. Cy Hirsch is such a little, he's an intelligence asset.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? But again, too, I don't know. Maybe this is like a bigger question that I'd love to get your take on it. But it's like, it's like once Trump got in, it's just like everybody is under this spell. Suddenly now, I don't know. People aren't like using their brain anymore. They're not really like thinking. They're not able to see anything. And I don't know. What do you make of that?
Well, I was just talking about that the other day when I was rambling on for 2 hours. It's people when they're, cause I deal with a lot of con, artists, you know what I mean? Like when you're investigating internet con games and romance scams, those kind of stuff like that. And Trump is the ultimate con man. And people, they want to believe. They're in denial. They can't give up hope. Now they've invested too much into it that they just can't give up hope. But the thing is, okay, all the other stuff, the racism, he's going to build a wall, all that stuff. Okay, let's forget that. Okay, let's forget that he's sold out the foreign policy to ExxonMobil. Okay, let's forget all of that.
Right.
This idea that he's going to somehow, he's rounding up all the pedophiles. Where the hell? What? How do you get this? There's nothing. There's nothing in the man's history. His whole life, he put his daughter into a modeling agency run by that guy Casablanca, who was notorious. This guy Casablanca was notorious. In his office, he had a scale right by his desk, and he would have these little girls come in and take their clothes off and get weighed, and he'd measure them himself. And my God, this guy Casablanca took these little kids to Studio 54, and while everybody else was drinking champagne and stuff like that, he had them have milk and cookies. Okay? Yeah, man, and that's Trump's buddy. All right? And people, all this crap. Hey.
No, I know. It's almost like, they imagine Trump as some sort of deep cover, fed for pedos or something. It's crazy the like mental gymnastics that people go through. It's like every time he, he gives a speech or something where it looks like he's groveling to, like the CIA or something. Oh no, you don't understand the hidden messages behind all of this. And, every time Trump like misspells something, like in a tweet, it's all, well, no, he's just trying to get your attention there, So now you're talking about it. Don't you see? He's trolling you. It's like, where, it is actually like at times it's like, listen, I'm going to get back to the Stargate so I can get back to Earth before it closes. Mm-hmm. You want to stay here, go for it. I know, at what point do you think people are going to wake up to that though?
I don't know. I don't think they will. No, I think when everything finally collapses, because you got to remember, there's 600 appointments in the executive branch, and he needs to appoint and have to get congressional approval. He's only named 29 out of 600. There's no government. We have no government right now.
I know.
I was talking to a former guest of mine off the air last week, and he says, Ed, the building across the street from the White House, the Executive Office Management Building, is empty. There's no parking. He says all the parking spaces are empty, and it's like a Sunday on a holiday is what he described it. And then he said half the offices are empty, and the people that are there are low-level former Obama people that are just left over, just wandering the halls. It's like, but no, they're believing. They are true believers, man. So, and I don't know if it's ever gonna wake up. What could he,
Yeah, I know. I mean, he'd have to like kill a child live on camera, and even then they would come up with some sort of, but that was, he was a terrorist or something like that. They'll come up with some ludicrous explanation.
He was a Mexican.
Yeah, right, yeah. He's going to grow up to be a rapist one day, so we had to take him out.
I think I was just saying this too the other day, that I think a large part of the Trump supporters is just that now they feel comfortable being openly racist, And
for sure.
Yeah. But how's that playing in New York these days?
God. I mean, here it's sort of, I mean, it depends. A lot of the city is just sort of, hey, we all have to do our jobs. You would not notice it quite so much. But, I mean, I'll say, like, for instance, where I work, a lot of liberals, a lot of white liberals too. But, all sorts of people that now suddenly everyone is a social activist.
Right.
Everybody is, got this rage and we've got to resist but it's sort of resisting what? I don't see them articulating a, like, cogent, idea about what they want to resist. So it's a lot of people kind of yelling. It's a lot of people that are very angry, and it's a lot of people that now I think feel forced into confronting that we live in a racist, homophobic country with endless war, surveillance, massive economic inequality, all the things that if Hillary had been elected, they would have just continued ignoring. So it's a lot of the sort of like faux outrage. And again, protesting is very chic all of a sudden. It's a new brunch in New York. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how long it's going to last, because these people too, they get so worked up that they can't do anything. And I just want to shake them and tell them we're barely 3 months into this. Okay. We kind of need to pace ourselves out when it comes to our outrage. We got at least 4, maybe 8 years of this guy. Like, calm down a little bit. I don't know. I mean, what's it like where you are?
Well, I'm a little discouraged. It seems like a lot of the activists that I've known here for a long time, they're all getting co-opted by MoveOn.org and these organizations, which are no friend of ours. And there was even a national strike was for February. What the hell happened? It's you don't hear a peep of that because that's what's going to, And I think it was February 20th it was supposed to be. It wasn't on the news at all. It was on Facebook. Some people talking about it, but I don't know. These not my president stuff. They seem to be more popular. MoveOn does it, and I think it's a bad move. Hey, what about Wienergate? Are the papers over there talking about Wiener?
Oh. No. You'd almost think he doesn't exist.
Yeah, see, that had to be a deal. There had to be a deal there, man, because what other explanation?
Oh, even that too, because, I mean, if you read what that young girl talks about, conceivably in some of those things, she's, naked on Skype talking to him? That's gotta be, I mean, big time jail, That's like, I mean, promoting a minor. That's child pornography. Yeah. You gotta believe Wiener is probably taping that or recording it somehow. But not a peep. And I know that whole, whatever the hell was going on with that had to be something, that Giuliani cooked up with all of his FBI buddies in New York. And, I mean, something, I actually don't understand, like, where is that even going? Where is Wiener right now?
Well, that's a pretty cut and dried investigation. It's on the computer or it isn't. You know what I mean? So either he's cleared or he should be under arrest. So something happened. Because that guy Prince, the Blackwater guy, was running around all over the media saying he knew what was on there, his connections with Hillary to Epstein, to all that stuff. He was coming right out and saying that. His sister gets a job head of a Department of Education, when she's talking about grizzly bears in the schools.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That they have to have guns because the bear's going to show up, the armed bears. It's just crazy. So something's going on with that, man. There had to be a deal. There has to be some kind of deal. Because why is he not talking about Wienergate? That would be.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly. And Trump is no friend of Anthony Weiner's.
Right.
Why? Of course. Why isn't he hammering that?
It's a no-brainer.
You know what? I mean, that's sort of a fascinating thing right now is that he's not pointing to other, scandals or things to kind of deflect attention away. That's what I find very odd about his behavior and his sort of strategy, which is maybe evident that he has no strategy, that the emperor has no clothes, he's not really in power or control, which is where I'm beginning to lean more and more in that direction, that he's just kind of there.
I disagree, because then those offices would be filled. The executive office management building would be,
That's true.
Yeah. And no one's talking about that either, too, that the building across the street from the White House is empty.
Yeah.
There's, you never used to be able to get parking there or something. Now there's parking everywhere. It's like a Sunday, they said. But another thing, too, remember when the thing came out about the golden showers? Okay. Mm-hmm. First of all, he didn't deny that for like 36 hours. There was no denial.
Yeah, I know. There's a weird denial.
Right.
Weird non-denial, yeah.
Then he comes up. What's the first thing he says is, listen, they got cameras in all these hotel rooms. The hotel owner goes on TV and tells everybody, hey, guys, there's cameras in all these. And there are cameras, because they have cameras in there legally to catch the housekeeping stealing, okay? So they admit that there's cameras in there. They got cameras in there. But they use them other times, too,
Mm-hmm.
So and now, just think, too, if they're pulling out that piss gate about this golden shower stuff, that's just like a shot across the bow. Just imagine what else they have on this guy that they're not dumping everything out. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. That's what's so comical from the Trump bots out there, that they think that they don't have any, that's why the CIA is going after him, because he's so dangerous and blah, blah. I mean, they must have had a fucking field day collecting dirt on this guy.
Everyone, the Russians too. Everyone must have dirt on this guy. Where he goes.
You know what? I see this. I'm leaning more and more towards this direction too. Is that Trump is, and I'm going to probably talk about this at some point soon. But the overuse of the term deep state is now it's like almost like a useless term. Because, people are using it incorrectly, and I've even overused it myself. But Trump is very much connected to that world.
Oh yeah.
He just through the sort of overtly illegal means in terms of like the mafia. Whereas the Hillary Clintons of the world are connected to that through the officially legal versions like Wall Street and banks and things of that nature.
You mean yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, no, of course, and the same thing. I mean, Trump is connected to this legally too, and some of the real estate and whatnot. But he seems very much in tuned in that world through the mafia and one. So I mean, this guy knows full well, unless to all those people, the mafia is fine. They never did a bad thing, never cooperated with intelligence, or that's what I don't understand. He's very in your face about all of this. And then, of course, these people want to use the term deep state without understanding it. Rex Tillerson is the deep state.
Right.
Okay? Like, that is the deep state is not the CIA or I mean, it's become this like boogeyman, the way they bandy about this term, which very far from what Peter Dale Scott, I think, originally intended. Where, like the deep state are the CEOs of ExxonMobil. The deep state are, boardroom members of elite, hedge funds and companies and things like that collude behind the scenes and, have connections to intelligence operatives in other countries. Like, that's the deep state, not this sort of boogeyman that doesn't like Trump. I don't know. What do you make of the overuse of the term deep state, Ed?
I hear you. Okay, Trump's not an outsider, that's for sure. And another thing to remember too is that these organizations like ExxonMobil have their own internal intelligence agencies. Okay, that that are capable of everything that the CIA and the FBI is capable of doing. These guys got top level people that come straight out of FBI, come straight out of CIA, and go work for these companies, man. There's no doubt about that. But again, too, this guy Sater, one of Trump's partners in the Soho hotel. Are you familiar with this whole story that just came out?
Vaguely. Explain to the listeners.
Trump's lawyer, Cohen, okay, who is always, you see him on there, he's always he's always there. He's one of Trump's spokesmen, okay? And he's really funny, too, because he's so arrogant and so abrasive with the reporters. Him and this guy Sater. Sater's Russian mafia who did a partnership.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Did a partnership with Trump at the Soho Hotel. He just announced, Cohen comes up the other day and he says, I got a letter from the Ukraine here. It's a peace deal between Russia and the Ukraine. I negotiated it for you. I'm bringing it over to Trump. An hour later, he says, no, there was never any negotiation. There was never any letter. I didn't bring Trump in. He says both sides. They're lying, and no one even blinks an eye. The amount of lies coming out of this administration, like it's nothing. Hey, you know what? I'm going to be talking about this Friday night. Because there's another element to this. Remember all those internet memes that they would always have that Bill Cosby gave this commencement speech where he said, I'm tired. I've worked 80 years and I'm tired. And then there was another one, Bill Gates gave a speech at a college about things you don't learn in school.
Yeah.
And then the other one, too, Kramer, that guy, Michael Richards, did one about racism. You know, that at his closing argument at his criminal trial, he gave this speech, you know. Yeah. And patently false, made up. You can look them up. The way I found these things was I Googled Snopes to find them. Okay, patently false. But when people would post these things, and I'd say, hey, that's fake. It's made up. They would say, you know what? It doesn't matter whether Bill Gates said it or not because it's the sentiment. It's the words in there. I agree with it. And it's like, that's what's going on now. I think that was almost like a psyop, you know, to get people ready for this kind of thing. Because now it doesn't matter whether Trump gets caught lying or not, or even lies about what he's going to do. It doesn't matter because what really matters is the ultimate ends justifying the means. That he's going to get it done. He's going to make America great again in some bizarre way, even though everything's a lie and everything's false. Crazy stuff like what happened in Sweden the other night.
Yeah,
crazy stuff. You know?
No, and him like quoting, you know, this is what's so drives me up the walls too. Yeah. It's fake news, except for I guess Fox apparently all of a sudden is fine, you know, because that's the only news that Trump will point to. Even though that even at Fox, you know, what's his name? Shepard and Chris Wallace are both, this guy's nuts, you know, come on. Yeah. Even we don't buy this idiot. No, it's crazy that people are just, that's what I don't get. It's like, it's, you know, you want to bitch and moan about the deep state and the New World Order. Like, they're beating you right now. They are beating you by making you completely blind to all of the stuff that's going on right in front of you. I mean, that's what's so funny. There's this whole like fake news. That come on, where does that begin? It begins with this shady, obvious sort of intelligence front, proper or not, putting it out there. Here's all the fake news. That's gone. You know, the people screaming fake news are not the you know, CIA-backed anti-Russians. It's all the Trump idiots. So it's like you're taking this phrase and this idea that was created by the intelligence agencies to use against you, and you're using it as your own. It's like, I mean, come on, this is what the CIA gets off on. They love that kind of thing. You know, this is like classic CIA, you know, like the sort of like occultic kind of mass public operations that they love to do. You're taking their own phrase that they've conjured up to use against you, and you're using it as your own, while at the same time you're being completely duped. You know?
Yeah, I do know that it's mind-boggling. But you know what? You mentioned Fox News. they're really not supporting Trump either. Like you said, most of them think they'll laugh at him, and even in their news reporting, the writing of the news, they're not supporting Trump. But very interesting, because you got to remember, Roger Ailes was there was a coup, and they got rid of Roger Ailes over what? Some sexual allegations? They've been going on sexual allegations with this guy for 30 years, back when he worked for the Mike Douglas show.
Yeah.
He's bringing little 16-year-old girls into his office at the Mike Douglas show, and no one says anything about that. They're talking about Kelly, who's that, Megyn Kelly?
Megyn Kelly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bizarre thing going on there, too. But what I found out just recently, too, just past couple of weeks, is that Murdoch has a $300 million trust for his two daughters. You know who's for that trust? Ivanka Trump.
No, again, it's so in your face. They're laughing at you if you don't see this. Well, I mean, not to mention, is no one within the Trump supporting community just gonna, call it out for what it is. Fucking creepy and weird that Ivanka is basically the first lady. Does no one see this as just so bizarre and creepy?
Yeah.
What and this is after all this, she's not going to be there, she's going to run the company, blah, 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 it's great, this, that, and the other thing, huge, and then she just, nope, Ivanka's here, and, who the hell is Jared Kushner? Well, okay, he's very good looking, I assume he's smart enough, he runs, the Kushner family business, but what the hell does he know? He's supposed to be, what, because he's Jewish? He's some sort of great arbiter between Israel and America?
Yeah.
They talk about nepotism. This is worse than the nepotism that you see with, just from party lines. This is like some sort of Game of Thrones style stuff. It's got the incest and, dynastic family rule, massive corruption. God only knows what's going to start happening internationally. We haven't had some sort of international incident quite yet, but anyone out there who's following this assassination of Kim Jong-un's half brother Kim Jong-nam, North Korea is they're back. They are ready to start. I think interacting a bit more with the outside world. I think again they like so many other foreign leaders, they just see Trump as ineffectual and weak.
Yeah,
he can barely get Michael Flynn, he barely did anything. Made a few speeches, and then he's just kicked out the back door. So, North Korea can just kind of, cool, we can brazenly kill this guy on Malaysian soil too, which is an ally of North Korea's. Another possibility that I was thinking the other day, this is South Korea just saying, hey, this is our chance. We can kind of really start mixing it up because they don't really have a president in control. They've got this, the president in South Korea has been recalled. There's all, these they're going to hold these new elections. Ban Ki-moon wants to run and get in there. That'll be, just terrific for the Korean Peninsula. And now they're killing guys out in the open and in an airport of all places.
And they filmed it. There was a reality TV show. They're filming it because they.
Yeah. I know. I don't know what the hell to make of that. No, totally. And then, anyway, we're at the break right now with Ed Opperman. I'm going to see if I can beg Ed to stay around for the second hour, but if not, I've got lots to talk about. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back with you.
I like very much
Radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
And I hope people support American Freedom Radio. And I hope people vote with their dollars and really understand the value of having American Freedom Radio. Because that's my family. If you love me at all, Jack Blood, support American Freedom Radio. Like, my family has literally disowned me in American Freedom Radio. Danny and Don and those guys, those are my actual family. So please support these guys because they have all the technology. They have all these great things that they're going to do. But obviously they can't do it all by themselves. So not only would I like to see you support them, I'd like to see you retweet them and repost them and really get involved and get on the bandwagon, so to speak, on doing that do-it-yourself promotion, because they're a do-it-yourself radio network, and we just need that so much.
Did you know there are 3 million edible food plants on Earth, and none have the nutritional value of the hemp plant? HempUSA.org offers you hemp protein powder. It does not contain chemicals or THC, is non-GMO, and is 100% gluten-free. Hemp protein powder burns fat, builds muscle, contains 53% protein, and feeds the body the nutrients it needs. Call 888-910-4367 and see what our powder, seeds, and oil can do for you. Only at HempUSA.org. HempUSA.org introduces 3 brand new detox formulations of micro plant powder. Brain Fuel for depression, bipolar disorders, and stress. Total Care, anti-cancer agent that cleans the liver and organs and increases memory. Rejuvenate, invigorates and heals the body, mind, and spirit. These products are your alternative to pharmaceuticals. Call 888-910-4367 and like us on Facebook. We ship worldwide. Only at HempUSA.org.
We all know that they're not telling us the truth. So stand up for your rights, demand the real medicine, and your right to use it and grow it. This is Rick Simpson, and you're listening to American Freedom Radio.
Yo, what's up? Check this out. The voice of the revolution. American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
What about show business? Show business, completely dishonest, corrupt, and full of shit, but in a nice way. Plenty of expensive drugs and perverted sex. If you're going to be full of shit, might as well enjoy your work. Then you have the media. Not just the news media, let's include them all. The media are almost literally exploding with bullshit because they're located right at the crossroads of all the other bullshit. The media are made up of equal parts advertising, politics, business, public relations, and show business. These people are sitting right at bullshit junction. There's enough bullshit in the media for Texas to open a branch office. And you still have enough left over to start 2 law firms and a Christian bookstore.
What has American Freedom Radio ever done for us?
Provide us with free education?
Well, that's obviously effective, but apart from reversing the dumbing down of America...
All the information they provide is free?
What about the free podium for broadcast activists to speak from, man?
Exploiting commonplace corruption?
They help vulnerable people who don't have a voice?
Bringing light to important information nobody else does. Or they never censor, hang up, or cut off their guests?
Well, that's no fun, is it?
Oh, they created a fantastic alternative media source during an era of bad, manipulative, and infiltrated mainstream and alternative media shows and scam.
Okay, well, apart from the free education, free information, free podium for broadcast activists to speak from, exposing commonplace corruption, helping vulnerable people without a voice, bringing light to important information nobody else does, and creating a fantastic commercial-free alternative media source in a sea of bad, manipulative mainstream and alternative media shills and scum, what has American Freedom Radio ever done for us?
Donate to American Freedom Radio today.
No rules, no rules, no taboo topics, no taboo topics, no fear of doom, no fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio, American Freedom Radio. Porkins Policy Radio, offering a unique perspective on everything. Geopolitics, culture creation, the reality of the world we live in. Coming to you live from New York City, your host, Pierce Redmond.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Porkins Policy Radio. I am your host, Pierce Redmond. Once again, you are listening to this here on American Freedom Radio, AmericanFreedomRadio.com. And here at AFR, we have a brand new Patreon campaign. So, if you would like to support me, but more importantly, support the wonderful radio station that helps to put this show up on the air, then you can go to the American Freedom Radio Patreon campaign. Again, I'll link up to that for this post and on my website. So become a member. You know, it doesn't cost very much, but you could really help us out with everything that we do and keep the show on the air. And again, too, this is a great platform in that there's really like no commercials. We just have that one commercial break, which is you turn on any regular terrestrial radio station, but a lot of internet radio stations, tons and tons of little breaks here and there. So it's really wonderful here at AFR for that. So please do go and support AFR if you can. Of course, you can also support me on Patreon, and I feel like I should keep mentioning this because I had been away sort of for the past 2 weeks. We did some pre-recorded shows, but I am on iTunes now. So please go and subscribe through iTunes. If you can, leave me a rating. That helps quite a bit in terms of traffic and directing people over there. And I'm just so appreciative of everyone that has already done so. So thank you all so much. Well, enough of that. We are not joined by Ed Opperman in the second hour. Ed had to run and do some errands and whatnot, so we only had Ed for that first hour, which was a little bit kind of all over the place, but that is to be expected. I thought I would have had Matthew Lee back on the show, who's the editor and founder of Inner City Press, which is the best news service out there for news about the United Nations. And I will have Matthew on. Hopefully he'll be on for next Tuesday's show on the 28th, which may be a pre-recorded show, maybe live. It's kind of tricky with Matthew because he's always covering UN meetings and stuff. And of course, I was supposed to have him on over the weekend, but longtime Russian UN ambassador Vitaly Churkin passed away. Very odd. He was 65 years old, I think. So pretty young guy. Very surprising that he passed away. And Matthew said it was just a madhouse at the UN when all of that was going on. So I will try to have Matthew on the show soon. But that is why me and Ed's conversation was a little all over the place. And I know the police will be after me. Cause that's just, faithful listeners will know that I say the phrase, quote, way too much. And it is an Achilles heel of mine. It is something that I hate. I don't listen back to many shows that I do because every time I hear myself saying, it drives me insane. And that's usually, not always, but usually that's indicative of me, my underpreparedness for a show. So when I'm reading, there we go, we just got one right there, right? When I'm reading off my notes, if I have like a big show planned out, I don't say, quite so much. But it's an irritating, I guess, affectation of mine, and something that I have tried desperately to stop, but it's too difficult, But anyway, I thought, before I kind of get into what I had planned out for the second hour, I just wanted to state again, really encourage people to check out the documents that I have up in the show notes for this episode and for some past ones dealing with sort of ongoing lawsuits involving both Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislane Maxwell, because there really is quite a bit going on there that I think is just sort of barely kind of scratching the surface in the alternative community. And it's really important because there's some serious steps are being taken right now, and there's a bigger story that's going on that is just sort of overlooked. And as I mentioned when I was on Ed's show on Friday, the Ghislane Maxwell defamation suit that is set to begin. The trial is set to begin, I believe it's March 14th, so only a few weeks away. I will, of course, be covering whatever I can get out of that. I don't know if there's going to be anyone in the New York media that will be there reporting on it. I assume some will. I hope so. So I'll try and get as much as I can and all of that. And also really take a look at this Cernovich guy, because as I said, I didn't think there was much going on there, but now you've got Dershowitz applauding him. Why would Dershowitz even associate himself with this guy? Again, this is a Dershowitz that's, above it all, and he's so great and wonderful, and why link himself with Cernovich? Very bizarre. Also, another thing, so something that Ed and I were talking about off air last Friday, but I thought I would bring it up because it's sort of in the realm of all of this stuff, and this just happened on February 7th. The Melania Trump defamation suit with Webster Tarpley was settled. So people may not know this, but Webster Tarpley, who not someone I really particularly like or enjoy, but he's pretty well known in the alt media and the research community. Everyone will know who Webster Tarpley is. He got into some trouble for claiming on his blog, I believe it was, that Melania Trump was an escort or a prostitute. And believe it or not, Melania Trump sued him for some wild amount. Hundreds of millions of dollars, I believe. And this is also, this was settled, okay, for an undisclosed amount. I'm quoting, this is from New York Magazine. This is, I guess, as reported by BuzzFeed. Trump's attorney said in a statement that Tarpley agreed to pay her a substantial sum as a settlement. He also offered another formal retraction on his website, talking about I was totally wrong, and I was really speaking of innuendo, but I should have made that clear and whatnot. And I'll link up some other stuff. There's a New York Magazine article on this. I mean, if you just type in Melania Trump, Webster Tarpley, you'll see there's quite a few. There's Politico articles, one in The Guardian, there's Fox, a ton of them. Variety writing about this as well. But and the day that this was settled is also the same day that I believe this is also, again, Melania Trump. Yeah, Melania Trump refiles a $150 million defamation suit against the Daily Mail for, again, also referring to her as an escort or a prostitute of some sort. And just as Ed was leaving during the break, he said, bring that up. Because why in God's name would why would she even want to bring attention to this? And of course, so hardcore for Trump. So why even kind of go the extra distance there? I can't imagine that Webster Tarpley has that much money. I don't know how he's going to pay for all of this. Interesting of note as well is that Melania Trump's lawyer in all of this is Charles Harder, who just recently represented Hulk Hogan in his suit against Gawker, where Hogan won a $140 million settlement, which led to Gawker's bankruptcy. And the rumors, of course, I guess confirmed as well that Peter Thiel was bankrolling that lawsuit. And I know people have somehow tried to link that as Thiel is doing this in order to go after Gawker, because Gawker did, to their credit, covered Epstein very, very well. This really, really good articles on Epstein. Of course, I believe it was Nick Bryant who brought to light the Epstein's Little Black Book with all the phone numbers and stuff. Again, that listed all of Trump's numbers, his many, many numbers. That was a Nick Bryant article that was published in Gawker. And Gawker's, I can't remember the CEO of Gawker, but he also was a big kind of Epstein researcher before it was very shishi to look into Epstein for that very, very brief window of time where Conchita Sarnoff and others were talking about Epstein. And then it all disappeared, of course, when the election started. But there's this idea floating around there, again, on a lot of the Pizzagate message boards and on some of the George Webb, David Seaman type people out there, that Thiel somehow funded this lawsuit to put Gawker away because, get this, he wanted to protect the Clintons. Let that sink in for a moment. Peter Thiel, the man who supported Trump from the very beginning, meets with Trump, is unofficially an economic advisor of Donald Trump's. His VC firm, Founders Fund, support is invested in all sorts of invested in at least one company closely connected to Carl Icahn, who's one of Trump's BFFs. That would be Lyft. Remember that when everyone was supposed to delete Uber because Uber was really part of the problem because they were on Trump's business council. Well, guess what? Everyone that started using Lyft that same exact day that they deleted Uber, they were really putting money in the pockets of Peter Thiel and Carl Icahn, who are, of course, big Trump supporters. I don't know how, again, the mental gymnastics that are capable in one's mind to believe that Peter Thiel is protecting the Clintons. Look at this. Look at this right now. Okay? You've got Melania Trump using the same lawyer that Hulk Hogan was using, who allegedly was being funded by Peter Thiel to take down Gawker over this. Now, Peter Thiel had some, what one might call legitimate grievances against Gawker. Gawker famously wrote this very stupid article entitled something along the lines of Peter Thiel is super gay, and sort of outed him. I don't know if outed was really quite the right word, because I believe that Peter, if you knew Peter Thiel, certainly in Silicon Valley, people knew he was gay. I don't think he necessarily hid it. But they wrote this very sort of stupid article, talking about, and again, just kind of fueling the way that it's sort of okay to make fun of gay people in movies and stuff in Hollywood. There's all this stupid gay jokes. They're just so juvenile. But anyway, aside from that, why would Peter Thiel be doing all this to help the Clintons when he's so obviously supporting Donald Trump and so into the Trump administration and whatnot? And now Melania Trump is using the lawyer that helped bring down Gawker? I wonder if Peter Thiel did all of this to protect Donald Trump, to protect Jeffrey Epstein, to protect whatever, what might have been exposed by all of that. Now, it's very conceivable, again, that Peter Thiel is totally acting on his own, which I wouldn't put it past him. He is a crazy transhumanist billionaire, spending a couple $100 million to bring down Gawker is nothing to him, really. That I think is more to the case. But just keep that in mind. All these people out there, when they point out that Peter Thiel is somehow doing this to protect the Clintons, keep in mind that Melania Trump is using Charles Harder, the lawyer that Hulk Hogan used. And again, come on, when does Peter Thiel talk about how wonderful the Clintons are? Never. But so that's that. And we'll keep looking into the Melania Trump defamation stuff. Because that is fascinating of itself, and again, that brings up lots of questions about the Trump modeling agency and questions about MC2 modeling agency, which is the Jean-Luc Brunel's modeling agency that Jeffrey Epstein is alleged to have fronted the money for. So lots of again, all these sort of intersecting strands here. Which I don't see people, they're much more concerned with talking about DynCorp and organ thieves, but not all these intersecting things when it comes to Trump, Epstein, modeling, celebrities, parties, all these various things that seem to be kind of pointing towards something. But anyway, I'll kind of get off of that. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this event that I attended on over the weekend. And it was for the 75th anniversary of Executive Order 9066, which is the executive order that was signed by President Roosevelt, which paved the way for the Japanese internment camps. Now, this is February 19th, 1942. That's when it was signed. That's when I went to this event. And that is called the Day of Remembrance for people out there who are unfamiliar with this. And it marks when, over 110,000 people were illegally incarcerated, 2/3 of which were already U.S. citizens. The other 1/3 had been here for quite some time. And this is like one of the more darker chapters in American history that is completely and utterly glossed over and whitewashed here in America and around the world. I myself didn't even realize that it was a day of remembrance. I didn't realize, too, that it was the 75th anniversary of Executive Order 9066. So I was at this event, and it truly was an amazing, wonderful event. There was lots of photographs from inside the American concentration camps, lots of artwork created by prisoners within the camps. There's some Japanese food there. There was some really wonderful dance performances. There was Japanese music, traditional and modern as well. And there were also some people that had actually grown up in the camps. There were camp survivors that were there. And I got to speak with 2 of them in particular, or 3 actually. One was a guy who, again, his parents were like second generation Japanese American. He was born in the camp down in Arizona, lived in the camp, for the 4 years, 3 years, and then his family was able to get sponsored by someone out in Denver, and they were able to move there. But same thing, I talked with another gentleman who, again, born in the camp, spent 4 years in the camp. Then after that, when they were released, after his father's business had been destroyed, because there's no one there to man it, they actually went back to Japan. And they didn't return until the 1950s. And part of the reason that they went to Japan is his father is what was called a no-no boy. So when these American citizens were rounded up by the government, forcibly removed from their homes, forcibly removed from the places that they had lived their entire lives, and then moved to prison camps, or as many of the Japanese call them, rightfully so, concentration camps, there was a policy that when they could draft, this is again, the U.S. government could draft these young men who were in these camps, and they were asked questions, these like loyalty oaths as well, and I forget the exact wording of them, but one of them is I believe it's something to the effect of, would you join the U.S. military? Would you get drafted or whatnot? And then the second question is, would you what is it? Oh, like something to the effect of, would you stand up against the Japanese emperor and have no qualms about fighting Japan and whatnot? And people would fall into these different categories, and some of them say yes, 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 no, and then there were the quote no boys who said no to both, that they would not serve in the military, that they would not go and start butchering Japanese. Because again, the implicit sort of thing there is not that you're going to go and fight Japanese soldiers. It's like, well, would you not kill the emperor? Would you not invade these countries? Would you not go and butcher Japanese people? Because you have to. That's the sort of implicit thing there. Again, in all wars, do you have a problem going over there and murdering Iraqis? You do? Oh, well, something's wrong with you. Same thing. That's what they were asking. And the no boys, many of them, it was not even a matter of, it's just that I would have no problem going and fighting, but I don't have any rights anymore because you've taken them all away. So I got to speak with a couple of these guys. I spoke with a woman again who's also had lived in the camp briefly when she was a young girl, and it was amazing to hear these people talk for a variety of reasons. The first of which is because this is so forgotten in U.S. history. It's so sort of brushed aside and explained away as this. Yeah, it was this. It's almost like it was this quaint, silly little inconvenience. Didn't affect too many people. It wasn't really all that bad. It was just a relocation. Nothing really happened to them. It was sort of like they're on summer camp or something. And of course, there was a great in the exhibit area of this event. They had this great sort of exhibit on semantics and the use of semantics by the U.S. government in order to make this all sound better. And they used terms like assembly centers or relocation centers. These are the exact same terms that the Nazis used. Okay, so again, the comparison to concentration camps is not it's not made up, or they're not exaggerating this. Relocation centers is what the Nazis called their own internment camps and concentration camps. And it's this, again, we live in this world now, or this mindset where suddenly we're okay. The New World Order has been defeated. Donald Trump is our God Emperor who will protect us from all of these things. There will be no FEMA camps. There will be FEMA camps for some, not for us. Mostly for the Mexicans and the Muslims who can't be trusted at all. They need to be rounded up and whatnot. And this sort of rhetoric is bandied about a lot. Both, on the right wing side, we've got people say this is wonderful. FEMA camps are terrific as long as it's for the Muslims and the Mexicans and all the undesirables, probably the blacks too at some point, because they're very uppity about keep that in mind. But what am I trying to say here, right? Because I'm like all over the place right now. You can tell I'm pretty pissed off about both the right wingers and the liberals. The way that Remembrance Day, or the way that the internment of Japanese Americans is viewed here, is so removed that it's almost as if it didn't really happen, and it's almost as if it really wasn't all that bad. Keep in mind that on December 7th, the Japanese Air Force bombs Pearl Harbor. That same day, the FBI begins rounding up thousands and thousands of Japanese Americans, and Japanese citizens that had emigrated to America. Thousands of them. What does that tell you? A, that the FBI already had lists of all of these people. They had already, and you have to assume too, this is not like a list that they started working on in November. No. They had been watching Japanese Americans for quite some time. They were able to rounding up hundreds and then thousands of them all over the United States. So they had these lists. And furthermore, they had no opposition. There was no one saying, oh, whatever. There's no one saying, this is horrible, this is wrong, we have to do something. They were able to just sort of go about and do it. So and then on February 19th, 1942, Roosevelt signs the order stripping Japanese Americans of all of their rights as, given to them or we can even get beyond the whole, the Constitution, ensures them. This is crazy even without the Constitution. You're talking about stripping human beings of just their rights to walk around, to exist. That is so crazy. And this happens, just after. This is only a month or two after Pearl Harbor happens. Again, the speed with which this could happen and the speed with which they were able to do this while everyone is sort of, okay, whatever. That needs to be understood. Again, that you can do this so fast, that you can have a whole society that looks the other way. When the liberals out there are bitching and complaining about Donald Trump and fascist America, while leaving aside the fact that, are you just waking up to the idea that massive corporations have undue influence in politics? That massive corporations own most of the politicians and work in tandem with them in order to fill their own pockets? This is fascism, but this has always existed. So don't just blame Donald Trump for all of this. And when these liberals are screaming about this is like Nazi Germany and go back and think about what was signed by the President of the United States on February 19th, 1942. That's how fascism works, is when you can look the other way at all of this. When you are completely complacent to the fact that for hundreds of years within America, racism towards Asians was through the roof. This is not something, you could not get away with this if this was just, boom, all of a sudden, the Japanese bomb us, we gotta start rounding them up. No. You have to you go all the way back to the early parts of, the American, the country of America, to the 1700s, with the Chinese Exclusion Act, with the way that Asians have always been treated, not being allowed to become citizens, massive racism towards Chinese and Japanese. That's how these sort of things work. It builds up. And then you have an excuse with which to do it, like Roosevelt had with the Japanese. And again, keep in mind, now yes, Germans and Italians were, they were rounded up as well. They were under surveillance and things of that nature, but on nothing on the level of this. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of people, women and children, old men being rounded up and put into abhorrent conditions. This was strictly for the Japanese. And this is just not spoken of. It's not discussed amongst anyone, really. It's just sort of this thing that happened. It's in the back of your head, and that's it. Now, at this event that I was at, aside from camp survivors speaking, and then just sort of hanging out, I spoke to them afterwards. We were just sort of mingling around. There was also a woman who was a Guantanamo lawyer who had been to Guantanamo Bay many times. Helped defend men that were there. There was one of her clients who just recently, 2017, I think a few months before Trump came into or was elected or whatever, or came into office, he was let go after 20 years incarcerated, again illegally in Guantanamo Bay. He was let go to Oman. He had his artwork up there. There was a woman there, Muslim woman, whose son is now in prison for 30 years for a crime he did not commit. He was set up, obviously. And he is being housed within a prison within the federal prison system. These secret prisons that are just for Muslims, just for terrorists. He was tried in a court within the federal court system that is specific for these terrorism cases, where all sorts of crazy things are allowed. And they were sort of there, and they were speaking about this as well, and they were speaking about, looking around at all of this, you see how quickly this could be done, how people could turn on one another, how it could be totally normal and accepted that you could start locking people up and stripping away all of their rights. Well, guess what? That behavior has to brew, it has to percolate within people for a while. That's starting to happen with Muslims. Okay, that's what's so crazy about the Muslim ban. It's not that it's wild that they're banning people. Again, because when we were bombing them, a lot of people didn't seem to care about that. But this just helps to create, to foment this, to build into this desire and this sentiment that they are the other, that they are dangerous, that we need to do something about it. And guess what? Remember Guantanamo? Myself, I had kind of forgotten about it. It seemed so far away and distant and so removed from me that I had sort of forgotten about it. That, believe that's going to start filling up again. The same thing with these prisons within the judicial system here. These are becoming more of the norm. And as this happens, you're going to start to see you can start to see how rounding up people and moving them, relocating them, protecting them. That was the other thing too. So much of the rhetoric back then that bled through even into like the 1980s with Ronald Reagan, when the Japanese Americans were begging him to give them some sort of reparations and acknowledgement. He said, well, but this was to protect them. We were really protecting the Japanese. That's why we moved them to their summer camps. But you can see how when you whip up people, when you normalize things like a ban on citizens or background checks, or just generally that you can't really trust them, there's something shifty about them. You create this environment that's so conducive to hating one another and mistrusting one another that then you can start locking people up. And I know I'm kind of like all over the place with this, but I really was quite affected by seeing this, because it's shocking to think that that's the thing. People think it's, oh, no, FEMA camps, that's crazy talk. And the government never has any plans to do that. They're never gonna lock us all up and blah, 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 martial law. But you look at this. I mean, well, we did it then. Oh, well, that was a war. All you need is some sort of event here in America. And I've said this before on the show. You have some sort of horrific thing or a 9/11 style attack or something, you can whip up the public into such a frenzy that internment camps, sure, whatever. Totally on board with that. And people, and then suddenly you have the liberals, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Well, you let it happen. You turned a blind eye to all of this. You decided that racism and economic inequality and all these other things really didn't matter for a while, okay? Because especially because Hillary was going to become president. Therefore, we can keep ignoring all of these issues. But then suddenly, oh, it's Trump issue. We got to do something about that. And I saw a lot of these sort of phony white liberals at this event that I was there. You know, people, they're talking the whole time during the people speaking and sharing their stories and, oh yeah, and it's just sort of, you just sat there thinking, what the fuck is wrong with you? Okay, why are you even here? You know, this is just to make yourself feel better. Oh, I care so much. You know, that's the kind of mentality. And I've been seeing more and more of that all over New York, especially. You know, Ed asked me about it. I didn't want to, I don't know, just start ranting about it, but now I guess I will. Oh man, but where am I going with all of this? Cause I'm definitely kind of all over the place right now. Well, I guess it's just to say that these events, these extraordinary events in our history, where we can strip people of their civil rights, their civil liberties, their property, their livelihoods, their what makes them human beings. When we can strip all of that in a day, just by signing your name onto some piece of fucking paper, when you can do that, and just sort of get away with it, and then 75 years later, people aren't even really aware of it, well, yeah, then fascism has come, okay? You know, in that sense. Fascism is here. It exists. When people have no concept of the historical gravity of these things, when they just sort of think it was something that happened, but it was a long time ago, and it was a time of great crisis and strife, and it's okay now, and it's all over, it'll never happen again, you're kidding yourself. All right? That's what's so horrible, okay? It's not that Trump says stupid things, or he's misogynist and whatnot. Those are issues. Those are serious issues for a lot of people. But when you can't look back historically, and again, I asked people. I asked, one of the guys that I spoke to who grew up in the camp. I started asking him about his sort of take on what's going on now, and he said, "Yeah, it is. That's what's so scary is this similar rhetoric that you hear, or the mindset that you see with a lot of people, where you can conceivably see how they could be roped in or tricked into buying into this, to giving up their say when people are being rounded up in trains and buses and sent out to camps in the middle of nowhere, out of sight, out of mind, barbed wire fences. Also, too, people are being executed in the camps. It's crazy. It's insane. These were not like night, they weren't like hotels that these people were staying in. And also too, on the flip side of that, again, another sort of example that kind of really jumped out to me and made me kind of, I did think, oh God, like what is the time that we're living in? So amazing woman, who spoke as well. And she was a Japanese American, born and bred in New York City. Her whole life, she's lived there. And she was almost the most interesting, because she was just really funny and just, didn't give a shit about, what anybody thought of her or about her views and whatnot. And she was very honest, really just funny little Japanese woman. She talked about the prison that was New York. That was, the borough of New York, or the borough of Manhattan in her case. And she talked about, the prison that was created for her. Because, people are vaguely aware, that, the prison camps existed on the West Coast, and a lot of people were sent to the prison camps there. What people don't understand is that on the East Coast there was the same thing, only they built the prisons within the city. Or within, the place like New York. she says she remembers when Pearl Harbor happens and everyone's freaking out. Her father has to leave work, you know. He's, I think a friend of his calls up her mother and says, get him out, you know, call him, tell him to leave right now. What are you talking about? It's son, you know, he's going to stay there until the end. It's his store. You got to get him out of there. Japan has just bombed Pearl Harbor. I don't know what's going to happen if somebody walks into that store, sees your husband. So he leaves and comes home. And then she tells a story about when she I guess, leaving school or something, or to their friend's house, and she comes home, and one of their neighbors, who are Chinese, they have a sign up on the door to their apartment that says, we're Chinese, we're not those dirty Japs in apartment 2B, meaning her. You know, don't attack us. So that's already quite troubling. Then suddenly the FBI starts visiting her house. Again, not the police, the FBI. FBI visits her house. They're asking about shortwave radios and and they even questioning her. She must have been, I don't know, 7, 8 years old at the very most, questioning her. Do your parents speak Japanese to you? Have you ever seen strange people? And they kept calling long dresses. I think they meant kimonos, coming over, and what do they like the emperor? And all these sorts of bizarre questions. They start asking questions about the curtains. Do your parents have the curtains up at night? Do they close the curtains? Apparently, somehow curtains meant that you were, I guess, like hiding something, you know, that the classic spy behavior. You know, Japanese undercover agents in America, they all had curtains. And suddenly, she remembers her mother always opening the curtains, and then she just comes home and her mother's freaking out, ripping down the curtains that she had made. So no curtains in the house. And she talked about then her and her sister, they always had to get changed in the bathroom because it was the only room in the house that didn't have windows. So nobody could peek in when they're changing and things. So already, you know, creating this prison for this little girl all of a sudden. And then she talks about, that her mother was always, seemingly, she's always on the phone talking to her father, telling him everything they were doing. So they had to go to the store to get milk, pick up the phone. Hey, honey, we're just going to go to the store and get some milk. They're going to visit someone in Brooklyn, or, hey, we're going to go visit them over there. We're going to go to Prospect Park and then we'll come back, you know, hangs up the phone. All for 4 years, this is going on. She doesn't realize until years later when she's, an adult, and her mother tells her, I was never talking to your father. I was calling my FBI handler or FBI, you know, liaison to tell him exactly where I was going, where I would be, so that A, they could keep, they would know, they'd have a record, and B, so they knew how to follow me, where to go. This is a woman, again, grew up, was born in America. She's a U.S. citizen. All these things. She had to talk to the FBI every single day about every single move that she went. And she talked about creating this prison within, both within your mind, you know, as a kid, you don't really quite understand these things, but you know that everyone hates you. You know that you're not safe. And then creating this prison in this giant city like New York. I mean, her parents could not leave, the state, let alone the city. They were stuck there. She's told the story about she went to a summer camp, a Quaker summer camp, when Quakers are the only people that, you know, would accept the Japanese and help them, and she said, you know, the only organized group that actually gave a shit about us were the Quakers. And she's at this Quaker summer camp, and there's a visiting day, and the parents all come take their kids to the small town or whatever, go out for lunch or sightseeing and stuff, and her parents never come. And of course she thinks they hate me or they don't care, and she makes the point, Japanese parents very, very dour, and they don't express emotion, so they never talked about it. And, years later, her mother was living with her at the time, and her husband, they were going to pick up their daughters at summer camp. And she made this flippant, you know, kind of comment, to her mother. So, oh, you have to make dinner for yourself tonight because we have to go, like good parents, and go to visiting day. And her mother starts sobbing. And she had never seen her mother sobbing before. And she says, we couldn't leave. They wouldn't let us leave the island of Manhattan. Every time we tried, they said no. Or they would follow her. They would forcibly stop her. So I was really affected by all of this. Because it really wasn't that long ago. 75 years is nothing. And, has all that much changed since then? Not really. We've just sort of shifted around. It's not really Asians anymore. Well, it's just another type of, Asian, like Pakistani or Afghan or just Muslims in general. So it's all over. Arabs, North Africans, doesn't matter. Muslims. That's the new group. And that's just been building and building. And I think it's whereas, say, the racism against Japanese or Asians in general had built up over hundreds of years, I think we've been able to accelerate so much of that with Muslims in the course of a few decades. We go, we have the whole sort of myth of Al-Qaeda and the birth of Al-Qaeda in the 90s through all these events, and we get 9/11, the Iraq War, Afghanistan, we get all the Boston bombing, this constant rhetoric, all Muslim this, Muslim that. We got the Muslim ban, we've got drone strikes, we've got all of these things building up. And people, some people love it. Totally on board. We gotta lock them all up. And then the other side, I'm sorry to say, they're too fucking concerned with their own sort of like, oh my God, it's just so horrible. Trump is the worst. He's misogynist and this, that, and they're not seeing what's really happening around them. They're too complacent with their own shit and their own sort of pretend problems and this holier than thou, we're all activists, we all have to resist all at once, and they're not seeing what's really happening. They're not seeing the level of racism that exists out there. And it's not just Muslims too, okay? It's just look at the way Black America is treated here, or any really minority. I mean, look at the way Hispanics, Latinos are spoken of, what you can get away with. Not to mention the Chinese, which are always a sort of whipping boy. But they're not seeing all of this for what it is and for the mindset that it creates. They're very kind of loud and in your face, and they hate this and we got to resist and this and that. But they're not breaking it down and looking at it on a level where 75 years ago we were able to commit the most atrocious sort of civil rights violations that you could imagine. That you could lock up all of these people, and you could lock them up and then draft them, then go force them to fight for the state overseas and kill other people for you, but they had no rights at home. That's the power of government. That's the power of the state to do this, to get away with that. They're not seeing that. They're not seeing that a lot of these things are already in place. They might think the Muslim ban is horrible, okay, but they're not seeing that we already have a system of secret prisons within the federal prison system that are acting completely beyond the borders of what is legal anymore. These things are already there. These sort of, and I think that's where we should really have our focus on. It's great to want to go out and protest and to want to resist the evil Donald Trump, and he's got tiny hands and an orange face and all that thing. Yeah, sure, great. We can kind of pat ourselves on the back with all of that. But until you kind of wake up and you see that there is a environment and an atmosphere that is being created more and more every day where, God forbid, knock on wood, some event happens, right? Doesn't even have to be all that big, but big enough and scary enough that you can whip everyone up And then you get another executive order 9066, and hey, that's that. What are we going to do then? Is it going to be too late? I don't know. And again, too, for all the right-winger dickheads out there that think that Trump is just so great and awesome, he's going to protect us all, keep that in mind, because for them, of course, Trump is their FDR. He can do no wrong. He's great. He's wonderful. He's helping us out. He's fixing all the problems. He's going to put us back to work, just like Roosevelt did for all those people. And when he starts locking up people and stripping them of their rights and waging war around the globe, it's all going to be okay. We're all just going to kind of ignore it. And God forbid, 75 years from now, we start talking about that quaint, little brief period where we locked up all the Muslims in internment camps, stripped them of their rights, and then gave them the choice. Well, do you want to come and fight and kill other Muslims in Yemen or Somalia or wherever the hell the next war is going to be? Syria? Maybe we'll try and finish that one off. Where are we going to be then? What are we going to be saying when that happens? And I don't know. I mean, I know I'm kind of all over the place and again a little bit emotional with all of this, but I really was affected by what transpired 75 years ago. How easy it was, how simple it was, and how a president that a vast majority of people loved and revered could get away with this. And I'm not trying to say that Donald Trump is Roosevelt or something, or there's some sort of comparison there, but that's the same kind of environment or atmosphere I think you could have happen again. And whether you want to believe it or not, Trump is wildly popular. Well, anyway, enough of my emotional rant for today. Thank you all so much for joining me. I will be coming to you next week, hopefully with Matthew Lee, but if not, it will be a great guest or maybe me. So thank you all for joining me, and I will be talking to you very soon.
News and information you can trust. This is American Freedom Radio. Freedom, American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
And I hope people support American Freedom Radio. And I hope people vote with their dollars and really understand the value of having American Freedom Radio. Because that's my family. If you love me at all, Jack Blood, support American Freedom Radio. Like, my family has literally disowned me. American Freedom Radio, Danny and Don and those guys, those are my actual family. So please support these guys because they have all the technology, they have all these great things that they're going to do, but obviously they can't do it all by themselves. So not only would I like to see you support them, I'd like to see them and really get involved and get on the bandwagon, so to speak, on doing that do-it-yourself promotion, because they're a do-it-yourself radio network, and we just need that so much.
Nutritious food is real body armor. It builds muscle, burns fat, improves digestion, and feeds the entire body the nutrients it needs. Did you know the U.S. government banned the hemp plant from growing in the United States and classified it as a Schedule I drug to hide it behind the marijuana plant? People have been confused about this plant for over 80 years, and many still don't know what hemp is. So now you know hemp is not marijuana, and marijuana is not hemp. They are different varieties of the same species. HempUSA.com hempusa.org wants the world to know these basic facts and to help people understand that hemp protein powder is the best kept health secret you need to know about. Remember, hemp protein powder contains 53% protein, is gluten-free, anti-inflammatory, non-GMO, and is loaded with nutrients. Call 888-910-4367, 888-910-4367, and see what our powder, seeds, and oil can do for you. Only at hempusa.org.
We all know that they're not telling us the truth. So stand up for your rights, demand the real medicine, and your right to use it and grow it. This is Rick Sensen, and you're listening to American Freedom Radio.